Okay, good morning. How's things going today? There we go. I didn't turn that volume down far enough. There we go. Now I got that volume turned down. Good morning. Good morning. I hope everybody's had a good weekend. I know mine was interesting to say the least, but just a lot of little things going on. It's always good when you have a weekend that life can be interesting in. Um, no, I'm not getting buying a new TV or audio device for a while, but I'll have to take a look at that later. Get $100 off of something, so I'm assuming they're probably talking about $1,000 item, and I'm just not paying $1,000 for anything right now. If I don't have $1,000 for medical procedure, I don't have $1,000 for a luxury item. Uh, you ever realize that you've got an itch, or you don't realize you got an itch until you accidentally scratch or rub that area against something, then all of a sudden it itches like all get out? I just did that to the heel of my foot. Rubbed my foot against the one of the legs on my stand here that I got my computer on, and it just all of a sudden the entire bottom of my foot started itching. But I mean, that's a good thing when that kind of stuff happens. Okay, but anyway, a couple of things interesting happened over the weekend. Uh, Fannie Willis has lost another attempt to stay out of a congressional hearing there in Georgia. A Fulton County judge has ruled against Attorney Fannie Willis in her attempt to overturn subpoenas. The Georgia Senate Special Committee has sought to compel Willis to testify and produce documents related to allegations of misconduct during her prosecution of President Donald Trump and others. Now, in previous proceedings, the court has ruled in favor of the Senate committee regarding subpoenas power and found Willis's claims of attorney-client privilege and work product privilege to be deficient. What they are going after is proof. And this is one of the cases where, if you've got nothing to hide, why are you fighting the subpoena? But this is just leading more and more and more credibility to the idea that her prosecutions that she lined up against Trump and that resulted in him getting that infamous uh, mugshot that he's got framed just outside of the Oval Office in the hallway there, that was all arranged with conversations between the Biden Department of Justice, like the uh, Bragg prosecutions in New York, where members of the DOJ, high ranking members of the Biden DOJ, suddenly decide that they need to go over and go to work for Bragg and help prosecute Trump. So, yeah, there's a lot of commingling there that, from my understanding, is illegal. So if that is all true, then she is, and Bragg should be, in a crap ton of trouble if that's true that they commingled their stuff together like that. And it wouldn't break my heart at all to see Fannie Willis and Bragg both lose their law licenses, be stripped of their retirement funds and everything else. Would not break my heart one bit to see that happen. No, Fannie, remember, she used to have her hair really styled. And it looks like, she's gained a bunch of weight from her previous photos in this one. Let me see. Bring up a picture. Fannie Willis. And go to images. Yep, here's a picture. Oh, let me open this link in a new tab. Open image. Okay, so we can see her picture there, and her hair pulled back nice and tight. And this is what she looked like during the Trump trial. Now, she's gained some weight here, at least in the face. Them cheeks are quite a bit pudgier now than they were back a couple years ago. So, is it possible that she's been doing some stress eating? And doesn't look like she's keeping up her makeup like she used to. Yeah, there's some things going on here with old Fanny that she doesn't like. But that's beside okay. So, but anyway, old Fanny's got to uh, appear. It looks like old Fanny's going to have to appear before that uh, Georgia Senate. Then again, she may be just trying to run it out. So, but see, another thing too is the Georgia lawmakers. Georgia legislature has passed bills that's going to let Trump and others recover costs of the election meddling case. So this this could get interesting. You know, Georgia could still be on the hook here for quite a bit of things. And let's see, what else do I want to get to here? Oh yeah, the tried to censor Al Green, Representative Green, for his disruptions of the joint session of Congress the other day and last week. And when they did, and when they did do that, um, and called Johnson down there to be censored in front of the House. And Johnson tried reading it. The Democrats went down there and decided that they were going to sing "We Shall Overcome." Now, it wasn't just the black Democrats that went down there. There's quite a few of the white ones went down. Well, they may be facing uh, some issues for doing that. They may be facing some issues for doing that. Let's see here. Here we go. Come on, don't want that. I want this. Representative Andy Ogles, Republican of Tennessee, has filed a resolution to punish Democrats who derailed the House floor proceedings on Representative Al Green, was censored on Thursday. We have a country to run. The failed policies of Joe Biden is why they lost the House, why they lost the Senate, and why they lost the presidency. They can lick their wounds all day, but they still have to behave on the House floor. We can disagree on issues in politics, but we're going to respect one another, and I'm tired of this crap. Ogle's resolution is aimed at stripping committee assignments from the Democratic lawmakers who temporarily plunged the House into chaos on Thursday. Going down there and saying, "There's our," and as somebody that has to use a cane to walk around. All right, that pimp cane there that Green is flailing about. I've never seen him really use it as a cane. I've never seen him walk with it as anybody who walks with a cane would and put weight on it. It's more of uh, British upper crust cane usage, where they just sort of walk and tap it around and use it to point things out, hit people across the head or in the chest with it. You know, some people have called it a pimp cane. Well, hey, morning, Ramen. Some people have called it a pimp cane. I'm not going to go that far because I don't think Al Green is a pimp. And it doesn't have a big glass uh, diamond or ball on the end of it. So, but I've never really seen him use it as somebody who needs a cane as a device to get around. So sometime this week we'll get a full House vote on that resolution to strip all those Democrats who went down there on the floor, and there's video evidence of it, of their seats. And that will piss off a lot of Democrats. That will piss them off because that's going to, because the Democrats are, they're supposed to have their own, number of people on each of the committees. Well, if they lose 20 or so Democrats, they're stripped of their seats. And remember, Nancy Pelosi, she started this when she stripped some Republicans of their seats. And this is why I say these Democrats, they never think that what they do to Republicans is going to be done against them. They never consider that. You know, that they've set the precedent because it's that we're always going to be in power syndrome that the Democrats have. A lot of them, still feel entitled to be in power, especially in the House. Because remember, up until Newt Gingrich era, Newt Gingrich broke a 40 plus year of the Democrats controlling the House of Representatives. 40 plus years, the Democrats controlled the House. Then Newt Gingrich came along with the contract with America. And ever since then, the House has swayed back and forth between the two parties, as it should. No one party should ever have complete control of either house of the legislature forever. No one house should. No one political party should. It should go back and forth. That way, those that were in power lose the power for a while, and they have to play under the rules that they set, like stripping committee members. And I'm waiting for a special committee to be set up, like the one on, like the January 6th committee. And the Democrats go to seat people, and Johnson says, no, I'm not going to accept them. Kick them off the committee and appoint two other Democrats that are more favorable to the other side's position, like Pelosi did. Because remember, Kinzinger and Cheney were not appointed to that committee by Johnson. They were appointed to that committee by Pelosi. So that could make life a little bit interesting for them. Let me hold off on that little piece of news article. Okay. Now, another thing that a lot of people question, and hey, Raman, I did send you an invite if you got your new mic in. A lot of things that people questioned, and especially since Doge, Elon Musk and his crew have been going around, is how is it that people like Nancy Pelosi can earn less than $200,000 a year and become multimillionaires? Dan Crenshaw, yes, Dan Crenshaw out of Texas. We'll use him as an example. When he uh, joined the Senate, he was even though he was, yes, a business owner, he was worth about $1.5 million. Well, now he's somewhere around 3.5 million. So, there's a lot of money that we have to wonder about how these people get it. Well, Sheldon Whitehouse, Democrat, is now being questioned because, and under ethics complaints, due to his voting in favor of laws that ultimately funded millions of dollars in grants, taxpayer dollars, to a nonprofit climate group that pays his wife's consulting firm. Okay, she has advised nonprofits, non-government organizations, a state agency, legislative bodies, and private companies. When her husband was first elected, when Sheldon was elected to Congress in 2006, she began working for the group, this climate group, the Ocean Conservancy, in 2008. While she is no longer directly employed by this Ocean Conservancy group, the organization pays her firm for consulting. So her husband has been voting for money to go to this conservancy group that turns around and sends some of that money to his wife, to the company his wife runs. Talk about money laundering. Oh, okay. Ooh. Oh, boy, I'm getting warning flags all over my computer screen here right now. Uh, yeah. Uh, Amazon. Now, I know I had a lot of problems with Twitter this weekend about almost everything I posted. This appears to be a bot. Please try again later. So, I mean, I got quite a bit of that this weekend. And I just got a thing about my browser losing audio connection. So I don't know what that's about because I'm being able to hear myself through, I got my phone set up. Oh, I think I can hear myself. Yeah, there we go. Okay. It just took a couple, my phone's just a couple of seconds behind. Hey, morning, Paul. How you doing today? So there's a question here. White House voting money that goes to his, for a group that's paying his wife big bucks. He never recused himself from a single vote. According to tax documents, Ocean Conservancy has paid White House a total of $2,686,800, either directly or through her firm since 2010. I would like to have had been paid $2 million over the past 15 years. That would have been nice. So that's let's see here. I want to save that for a few minutes down the road. Cancel this. What's this? Okay. And once again, over the weekend, Secret Service shot armed man in confrontation near the White House. This guy travels from Indiana to D.C. According to the Secret Service communications, Anthony Guglielmini, the United States Secret Service received information about a suicidal individual who's traveling to D.C. from Indiana. Well, they found him. As officers approached, the individual brandished a firearm and an armed confrontation ensued in which shots were fired by our personnel, by the Secret Service. He was taken to the hospital. His condition is unknown. None of the Secret Service agents were hurt. The officers found him on foot at just about a block from the White House. The only thing I got to say now, I'm not going to show any of these ads. I'm not going to show any of these videos because I'm not going to help spread them. But you can find these ads. I'm calling them ads, but they're videos by individuals. Most of the ones I've seen have been on TikTok, but there's been a few in other places. One woman offering to send spicy letters to anybody that does the thing. Other people, male and female, offering to set up GoFundMe's, either as payment for or making certain that their prison books have plenty of money on so they can eat good for whatever their prison sentence is. Or in the case that they succeed, but they failed to survive the encounter, their families would be well taken care of for a generation or two. So these are people out on the internet making these videos. I'm hoping that enough people have reported these videos to the Secret Service and the FBI that every single one of them come in contact with law enforcement and questioned about their activities and put on permanent watch list, that all their internet activities are watched. They're put on do not fly list so they can't board aircraft. That their tax returns are closely scrutinized every year. Speaking of tax returns, I need to finish mine. All this good stuff. Because when you have somebody that is willing to openly advertise, endorse the assassination of a president, we've got problems. That is something that should not be happening. But unfortunately, it is. We've got people out there openly endorsing, wanting to set up GoFundMe's and other things. Like I said, I'm not going to show any of the videos. I'm not going to advertise the names of the individuals doing it, but you can find them out there if you go looking for them. And it surprises me that the servers, these websites, have not taken the videos down. I mean, all I got to do is use the word deport in a post. In a post, use the word deport when it comes to illegal immigration. And my post is taken down, and I've had some of them taken down for up to a week because, it's taken down within seconds of me putting it up. I will immediately appeal it. And a week later, oh yeah, well, yeah, your appeal's gone through, and your post has been put back up where it can be read. Well, we all know that a video a week old is going to get zero traction unless it's something that has absolutely gone viral. And if it's absolutely gone viral, any post that I would have made a week ago is going to be buried so far that nobody's going to see it. So these things, these, and I mean, it's even happened on TikTok. So Elon still has a problem there with some people over there on their safety team or their algorithm. That certain words, and y'all know me, I don't cuss, I don't swear, I don't wish death on very many people. I mean, I do offer, I would offer wood chipper services for certain individuals, feet first wood chipper services, but that's about it. I would wish for the removal of U.S. citizenship for others, and having them relocated to the country of their choice. And the choice being limited to China, North Korea, Venezuela. That would be about it. I wouldn't even give them the choice of Russia anymore. No. Send them to China, North Korea. North Vietnam would be on the list. And of course, Venezuela. Okay, let's see what else is on my list here that I got before I get into the good things. Close that one. That's holdover. That one's over. That can Okay, that's put that over here, get that out of the way. All right. Let's talk about immigration here for just, we're going I think we're going to get into immigration issues now, and then we'll get to the videos, get to the Senate, to the hearings that we didn't finish last week. And here's one where I apparently have a very unpopular opinion. U.S. immigration agents arrest Palestinian student protester at Columbia University. Okay, and of course, it's in Trump crackdown. They had to throw that in there. U.S. immigration agencies arrested a Palestinian graduate student who has played a prominent role in pro-Palestinian protests at New York's Columbia University as part of U.S. President Donald Trump's promised crackdown on anti-Israel activists. Mohammed Khalil, a student at University Schools of International Public Affairs, was arrested by U.S. Department of Homeland Security as university residence Saturday evening. His wife is a U.S. citizen and 8 months pregnant. Okay, I don't give a damn about either one of those. That means absolutely nothing to me. All right. And he holds a U.S. permanent residency green card. All right, now, this is where my unpopular opinion. Green cards can be revoked. You're still not a U.S. citizen. We're just saying you can live here as long as you follow our rules. You don't have to check in. You don't have to do check-ins. You're free to live and move about as you wish as long as you follow our rules. Well, we know that Columbia University and these pro-Palestinian protests have broken a lot of the rules, a lot of our laws. They've taken over buildings. They've held people hostage. They've effectively kidnapped other people. And the leaders of these protests, especially, and I've said for a long time, ever since these protests started, that any non-citizen involved in these protests should be arrested and deported, have their green cards, their visas, whatever allows them to be in the United States, to have them revoked and immediately deported. You're involved in we have video of you being involved in the protest. That's all that's needed. They don't need to go before a trial judge. They don't need to have a lawyer on their side. If they were involved in the protest, waving flags, linking arms, passing out food, waving a banner, being part of a takeover of a building, you go home. We don't want you here anymore. Hey, morning, Neil. Of course, his arrest has been condemned by civil rights groups as an attack on protected political speech. He is not a citizen. He does not have protected political speech. He's not a citizen. Non-citizens are not covered, if this is my very unpopular opinion, do not have the same rights and protections under the Constitution as the U.S. citizen has. You are here at our forbearance. You are here at the pleasure of our government. And if you displease our government for any reason, you're sent home. We don't want you here. You're here. You have requested permission to come live in our country, to attend our schools, to work, to provide a service, to do a job, to do whatever, or just to simply live here. You requested our permission. We granted permission under conditions. And those conditions are you being upstanding individual and not violate our laws or break our rules. But you don't have all the civil protections of our Constitution because you are not a U.S. citizen. And you can be, your permission to live here can be withdrawn. Yeah, I know it sucks. But go to Mexico. Go to Europe where they are, go to the UK where they are arresting their own citizens for silently praying or escorting you off, police escort, off a public sidewalk because your mere presence offends a Muslim group. And why does your presence offend them? Because you're Jewish and you're wearing the little skull cap that identifies you as a member of the Jewish religion. So the police don't protect you. They come and order you away and escort you away from them and tell you that if you return, you will be arrested for causing a disturbance. Try that one on for size, people. It's not the Muslim immigrants that are arrested and told to behave. It's the Jewish citizen, the UK citizen who happens to be a Jew, who is told he will be arrested. Never mind that the Muslims in the UK, they pray 5 times a day. That's fine. They go to their house of worship and they pray. At least that's the way it should be. But now they're taking over the public streets, literally unrolling their prayer rugs in the middle of the damn street. And a group of them, sometimes 15 or 20, other times more than 100, take over the street to pray for their prayers. Here in the United States, you even have them now doing their prayer chants through speakers on the outside of their houses of worship, their mosque, to where the entire public has to hear it. Has to hear it. Whether they want to or not, whether they are Muslim or not. So, do you think I really care then about a Palestinian student being deported because he's leading protests, illegal protests, at a college campus? Secretary of State Marco Rubio shared a news report of Khalil's arrest on social media on Sunday, adding the comment, "We will be revoking the visas or green cards of Hamas supporters in America so they can be deported." He did not elaborate, and spokespeople for Rubio did not respond to questions. Yes, Hamas is a terrorist group. Why should we allow people here in our country who support a terrorist group to remain here? If we can deport them, we can deport them. If they're here under our pleasure with a visa or a green card and they are not a U.S. citizen, deport them. And yes, I will take it. If they do become U.S. citizens, there can be a point where they can be stripped of that citizenship and deported. I've got no problem with that either. Now, that's somebody who's been granted naturalization as a U.S. citizen. Now, if you are a uh, born citizen of this country, then you can't have your citizens involuntarily stripped away from you. No, I don't agree with that at all. I don't think that would ever be even happen. The Department of Homeland Security said in social media posts that it arrested Khalil because he's led activities aligned to Hamas without elaborating. U.S. law forbids providing material support or resources to groups the U.S. has designated as terrorist organizations, including Hamas, the Palestinian nationalist Islamic group that governs Gaza and controls the territory's militant wing. The law does not define or prohibit activities aligned to these groups, and DHS spokespeople did not respond to questions about their accusations. Neither department has said Khalil is accused of giving material support to Hamas or any other crime. Khalil's detention is one of the first efforts by Trump, a Republican, who's returned to the White House, to fulfill his promise to seek the deportation of some foreign students involved in the pro-Palestinian protest movement, which he has called anti-Semitic. And it is anti-Semitic. It absolutely is anti-Semitic. Anybody that supports Hamas, let's not forget October 7th and what happened. These people who support Hamas usually support what happened on October 7th. I didn't think to bring it up until just now. Uh, uh, I think it's MRC has a video out there. They did street interviews showing what happened on October 7th. And a lot of the people sat there and said, "Oh, that's disgusting. That makes me rethink my support of Palestinian and Hamas." How anybody could not know what happened, I don't understand. But there's people out there that college kids out there that supposedly don't understand what happened on October 7th. But there were people in these interviews, that they showed, that said that was a good thing. F Israel, F all Jews, yada, kill all Jews on sight, yada, yada, yada. If those people are in the United States on visas or green cards, I've got no problem. There's video evidence of you saying kill all Jews. That's all that's needed. Deport you. Revoke your visa, revoke your green card, and send you home. You can be against the country of Israel and say you disagree with what Israel does. That's no problem. But when you take it to the level of kill all Jews, there I've got a problem. Just like I would have a problem if somebody came out and saying kill all blacks, kill all Hispanics, kill all whites, kill all Christians, kill all Catholics, kill all Hindus. I've got a problem with people who say that kind of stuff. People who believe that. I've got a problem with them people. And if they are visiting from another country, they're here on a green card or a visa or whatever, send them home. We don't need that kind of poison in our country. We've got enough of that kind of poison homegrown. So we don't need it. We don't need to import it. As y'all know, I listen to a lot of 1940s and 50s and even 60s radio programs. And we would call them PSAs today. Hey, morning, Data. We'd call them PSAs today, but saying uh, how the United States different groups need to work together. That the color of their skin or how we worship should not be a barrier. But it should be a bridge. And these were ads being put out in the 40s, 50s, and 60s. We don't see those PSAs today. We don't see the calls for a unity today. And we need those calls more than anything today. Okay, which one is this? And speaking of deporting people, and here's another one that I've been told I'm on the wrong. Yeah, Data, you're right about that. But usually when religion has been a point of friction, it's been one religion fighting another. Rather than letting the other religion play their own games, it's been one religion fighting the other religion. Dun dun dun. ICE raids at school. Federal judge gives a green light. The Denver Public Schools argue a drop in school attendance was due to new Trump administration policy of not shielding schools from ICE raids. Schools shouldn't be the only thing I've got to say here. Let me mute for a second. Okay, y'all didn't need to hear what just come up out of my throat. All right. The only thing I've got to say about this is the schools being protected from ICE raids. The only schools that should be even considered for protection without a warrant would be private schools. If you're a publicly funded school, then you're government ran. ICE can go there. FBI can go there. U.S. Marshals can go there. Your local police, your local sheriffs all can go there. They don't need a warrant. They don't need to show a warrant. Okay? You're not a private entity. You're a public school. You're funded on tax dollars. Now, would it be nice if the police had a warrant for a particular, named warrant with them? Yes, it would be nice. But in the case here of most of these illegals that they are picking up and arresting, these are families, these are people who have been ordered to leave the country by a judge and have not left. Okay? They've been ordered to leave and they haven't left. Or in some cases, like the guy there in California, he's been arrested 15 times. Well, actually, two of them. One was arrested 12 times. The other had been arrested 15 times. And now they're been arrested for the murder of a child. So, federal judges ruled against Denver public school systems to block immigration officials from carrying out raid on school grounds. U.S. District Judge Daniel DeMonico said public schools failed to prove that a recent drop in student attendance was due to the Trump administration reversing a 2021 Biden-era policy of protecting schools and other sensitive areas like churches from ICE raids. There are currently more than 1.4 million individuals on ICE's final order removal docket. 1.4 million people. Not only are they in the country illegally, but they've been ordered by a judge to leave. The Biden administration did nothing for it. So now Trump and Holman, instead of having ICE officials making sandwiches for illegals, have taken ICE officials and they're going out and arresting people who've been ordered to be deported. And wherever they can find them is where they're getting them. If the public schools are having a drop in attendance, a significant drop in attendance. Remember, public schools are funded by their attendance, by how many kids. So the public schools have got a financial interest in having these kids there, regardless if they're in the country legally or not. Okay? They've got a financial interest in those kids being there because they get paid per student. Denver Public Schools filed the lawsuit against the Department of Homeland Security and DHS Secretary Kristi Noem for reversing the policy, claiming the district was hindered in fulfilling its mission to students who didn't turn up for school for fear of immigration enforcement. Their mission is to educate the students who are U.S. citizens or students who are here in the country legally. That's their mission. They don't have a mission to protect people who are in the country illegally, other than the fact that, like I said before, everybody's more dollars in their pockets. Because they spend money on the students who are in the country illegally. They spend your tax dollars, they spend my tax dollars to educate kids who are here illegally. Domenico also denied a request that he grant a nationwide preliminary injunction forcing immigration officials to revert to the 2021 guidance. Judges, the judiciary, while it is a checks and balances on the legislature and the executive office, do not have unchecked power to tell the other two what they can and can't do. Their power solely resides in what is constitutional. That's it. And there's nothing in the Constitution forbidding the government from deporting those who are here illegally. There's nothing in the Constitution saying they can't do it. So the courts have no place to rule on that, or should have no place to rule. Again, that's going to be a very unpopular position. Besides the drop in attendance, Denver Public Schools said it's had to divert resources to respond to fear among students and families over the lifting of the long-time rules. The school system also argued rescinding the policy caused schools to devote time and resources to teaching students and staff how to remain safe from immigration enforcement. That's not their job. That is not their job. Immigration enforcement aren't the wicked witch of the West, evil trained monkeys that swoop down from the sky and pick up people at random that U.S. citizens and people who are here legally need to be afraid of. Denver Public Schools have trained staff how to handle ICE officers if they show up at the school. Tell them to deny agents entry if they don't have a warrant signed by a judge. They can't, again, like I said, I don't believe they have the authority to do that because they are a public school. They are 100% taxpayer funded. They are not a private entity. That's why I say private schools, they would actually have a place for these arguments because they are a private entity. They are not public. They are not taxpayer supported. So, okay. Since January 20th, ICE has arrested and deported thousands of people in the U.S. illegally, most of them being criminals with convictions in the U.S. or their home countries. Denver has seen a massive population jump in recent years, with the city predicting nearly 43,000 people arrived in the area via the southern border. The ruling also comes as the Trump administration has restarted the detention of illegal alien families that have deportation orders. If you've got a deportation order, that means you've already been before a judge. You've argued your case and you lost, and he ordered you to be deported. End of conversation. That ship has sailed. And if the Biden administration had followed the law, there would not be that 1.4 million people, 1.4 million people in the country illegally that have already been told they have to leave the country. But Biden and Mayorkas, they didn't follow the laws. And Mayorkas lied every time he was before Congress. Every time. Why he isn't sitting in jail for lying before Congress, I'll never know. Well, I know. He's got that big protective D around him. But he should be sitting in jail. Democrats sent Banner to jail. And did you know that up until quite recently, do I have the actual article yet? Did, did I lose? Yeah, I lost the article. Let me grab it real quick again. Let's see. And this is actually uh, an old story. Democratic Rep. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez had an illegal immigrant working for her, marking an apparent sidestep of federal law. Diego de la Vega was born in Ecuador, came to the United States for the first time in 2001 as a 7-year-old, eventually overstaying his visitor's visa. De la Vega, who later enrolled in deferred action in DACA, was involved politically after the DREAM Act failed in 2010. He began serving as a communications worker. Throughout the organization, he helped secure $2.1 billion to pay $15,000 relief checks to illegals. AOC's re-election campaign tapped him in 2022, and he later became the Progressive Firebrand's deputy communications director. DACA recipients are not allowed to work for paid positions in congressional offices. Okay. Anyway, in any case, De La Vega is now self-deported back to Colombia. In my late 20s, I began to seriously reconsider how precious my future in the U.S. was. I fought what happened if I just left? If I went to Latin America, I could embrace my identity as a Latino instead of trying to fit in the image as a perfect immigrant. De La Vega's wife is an illegal alien without DACA status, meaning she was even more vulnerable. So not only is she under investigation for how she had been advising her quote unquote constituents on how to avoid ICE agents, to avoid being deported. Uh, she's actually now in possibly in trouble for violating immigration law by hiring illegals to work in her congressional office. And that could become a major problem for her. But is anybody really surprised that AOC or that any Democrat would have an illegal working for them? But I mean, I'm not, especially AOC. That doesn't surprise me one bit. Okay, and there's that. All right. So now we get to the fun part here. The last little bit here. Miami-Dade County is the largest public school system in the entire nation. I wouldn't doubt that one bit, Neil or Data. I wouldn't be surprised at that one bit. So we're going to cover well the systems in South Florida uh, from Tampa on down. You know, there's issues at all of them. But yeah, I mean, we got issues with quite a few of their sheriffs and law enforcement, and that rule comes from the mayors. Oh, did that finally? Okay, before I start this video, I need to pop in a new syringe. Uh, Sorry about the delay here, guys. I probably should have popped in this syringe 20 minutes ago. And I just sort of forgot about it. Forgot to check. I need to start setting a timer on my watch. Because I probably should have changed the thing out a half hour ago. But y'all know me, I got going too much on a rant and completely blew it. So where I should have been putting in my last syringe to where I could be done by 11:30, I'm putting in my next to the last one that's going to now last me until probably noon. And I got things I need to do today, like go and pick up prescriptions. I tell you, these My eyes have really been opened up on the hassles of dealing with VA healthcare versus what I had before when before I turned 65. I mean, retirement was the healthcare I had when I was in retirement was one thing, but then turning 65 and losing what I had and having to go to uh, this other mess, it's been a real pain in the butt. All right, there we go. Open that up. We're going to look at these highlights that they've got over here on the side. Okay. Rather than listening to the whole thing.
What if your website's success was only limited by one single thing? Privacy regulations.
I guess being paused in commercial was being paused was.
The Democratic mayors of Boston, Chicago, Denver, and New
individual that was released from the county jail on Friday in the city and county of Denver.
That's all you know about him?
I do know that he was facing charges that the
Venezuelan gang member arrested by Border Patrol on September 20th, 2023, released into the country by the Biden administration. A few months later, he's arrested in your city, charged with aggravated assault. On March 11th, 2024, he's charged with motor vehicle theft, stole a car. And then on March 20th, 2024, Mr. Gonzalez is charged with felony menacing. 6 days after that last charge, I send you a detainer, which includes an administrative warrant. Basically, it says if you're going to release this bad guy, this gang member who allegedly stole a car, menaced people, and assaulted people, give us a 48-hour heads up. Is that right? That refresh your
And that they only gave him an hour. They gave him 1 hour notice. The guy was in prison was in their jail system for over 350 days, if I recall correctly. And they gave him 1 hour notice. This is Denver, the same place that the school system was fighting about being a safe place for illegals. There should be no safe place, but when you have a mayor who protects illegals the way this mayor does, and giving ICE 1 hour notification, that sets the standard for everything in the city and in the county or township, depending on what state you live in.
memory?
I do know about the detainer request. I do know that we provided a notification of release.
What kind of notice did you give ICE when you released him?
We gave him notification. I'm not sure how long in advance it was. I do know that. I do know that there was
1 hour notice, and you released him 5 days ago, right? Why not give him more heads up? Actually, let's put the slide up. Let's see what it says here. But let's put the slide up. This is what the Denver Sheriff's Department, it's kind of hard to see, so I'll read it. It says Denver Sheriff Department ICE notification being released to the streets. I simply said, just release him to us. You release him to the streets. Why not release him to ICE?
Thank you. What we've done, and we do this regularly, we've done 1,226 of these.
Yeah, they released him to the streets, in which, rather than having him in the jailhouse, where the ICE agents can come in, they take the jailhouse handcuffs off of him, shackles, however they have him. ICE agents put their handcuffs on him and escort him out the door. Instead, The Denver jail takes all the handcuffs and everything else off, lets him walk out the door, and have the ICE agents waiting for him out in the parking lot. They don't let the ICE agents come in the jail to do it. They make them wait in the parking lot. Meanwhile, and I'm not going to say that's what happened in this case, but we all know these guys could have people waiting on them. And waiting on them with firearms to protect them from the ICE agents or anybody else that has a warrant for them. This is absolutely ridiculous that they release them to the streets and tell the ICE agents, and tell the federal agents, federal law enforcement, that they have to wait outside for them. No, you can't come in and handcuff him inside and take possession of him. You have to wait for him out on the street. Wait for him to get outside of our building.
Is we notify
I'm
us.
asking about one. I'm not asking about the 1,200. I'm asking about Mr. Abraham Gonzalez, who's a gang member from Venezuela, stole a car, assaulted someone. You had him in your custody for how long?
I know that we released him.
345 days you had him in custody.
Oh, I was
And
wrong.
said, hey, can you
345
give us
days. I
48
thought it was
hours heads up?
355 days.
I
My
don't know
Give
mistake.
them 1 hour notice.
Mr. Congressman, we notified them of release. There were 6 ICE agents present when he was released, so they had enough time to respond and to be present.
Respond where?
To the jail where we released him from. So we released him we notified them of the release time. When we notify them of release, they come to the jail facility to pick them up. They're
Why
still
didn't you say that's not what you said? You said you release him to the streets. Did you release him to the streets? You release him to ICE?
What we do, sir, is we release him from our county jail and we coordinate with ICE on that release time and release date so that ICE can come and pick them up from that location.
Pick them up where? In the parking lot?
Yes, sir. They're on the facility
Guess
property.
what happened in the parking lot?
I know, sir. I've reviewed the video. So I looked at it. I've talked to the sheriff last night.
One of the ICE officers got assaulted, didn't he?
I've reviewed the video,
They had
sir.
to tase the guy, didn't they?
Would you like me to answer, sir?
No, I'd like you to answer. Did they tase him?
I know that there were 6 officers that had multiple tasers. I saw the
So they had
on
6
video.
officers. If you keep him in the facility and they come in the facility and get him, does it take 6 officers? Probably takes 2, doesn't it?
So we've been doing these, as I mentioned, 1,224 times, 1,226 times. This is the first time I've been made aware of there's been an incident like this. So I reached out to ICE after I saw the video.
First time
I
that he
coordinated
is
with their team and offered to sit down.
the first time he's been made aware of it. How many times did they have problems in the past that he isn't aware of? Now, I will grant ICE probably, 1,200 times, most of that was under Biden's authority, control. So that was most likely, just as, the ICE agents got lazy. I'm not excusing the ICE agents here. There's failures on both sides. And I will give this mayor, 1,200 times, 1,200 people they've released over to ICE over a period of years. So at least they're releasing them. But the idea that that the ICE agents weren't allowed inside the jail, that bothers me. That bothers me that they're being released to the streets for ICE agents to pick up on the streets. That bothers me. And why didn't the ICE agents, and this here's where I say the ICE agents failed. Why the ICE agents allow that to happen? They're federal agents. There's nothing that should be able to stop them from going into that jail to pick him up. This isn't a private jail. This is a public jail ran by the sheriff's department. So there's failures on both ends here. Okay, so let's go to the next one here.
Follow their laws in conflict, follow federal laws in conflict with local.
Get
It's
back.
a disorganized process. Now, let me ask you a question. Mayor Adams, did you support SB 1070?
I'm sorry,
Did you support the Arizona law called SB 1070?
I'm not familiar with it, sir.
Well, let me explain, okay?
Mm-hmm.
We
SB
got, oh, we
1070
did this one
challenged
already.
the federal government, and it's a supremacy clause.
Isn't the real issue here not one of immigration, but a federal?
Remind people to stay safe and do.
We are
There we
going
go.
to take away some of these mask mandates earlier so businesses can open and there can be a revival in New York. Did you ever, in law enforcement, to your knowledge, enforce the CDC mask mandate and ask your law enforcement to fine people who didn't wear a mask $1,500?
What we did was looked at the science and looked at how it will impact business. And after issuing warnings in education.
But I think it's fair to say, Mayor, right? You never referred anyone to the transportation department for prosecution, and you never had local police out there saying we're going to fine people $1,500 with the CDC mandate.
The goal was to always ensure that people will carry out the procedure, and we did several education and warning in the process.
Mayor Wu, you were a great advocate of masks and looked at the science. Do you know if your city government actually ever used police resources to carry out the CDC or transportation department's mask mandate where they were fining $1,500 or referring for criminal prosecution?
I'm not aware of any incidents of someone in Boston having been fined or prosecuted for any mask-related issues. We certainly prioritize public health and saving lives, and so our role as a city was to provide positive communication, outreach, make sure there were signs and different community organizations that could go and remind people to stay safe and do their best to take care of each other and their
And
families.
as much of an advocate as you were for masks, and I was an advocate for masks, would you have been hesitant to order your law enforcement, your local police, to say if someone was violating those mask mandates that we need to cooperate?
Okay,
and
what's
turn them
it? Why
over,
this
to
is
the
supposed to be
transportation
about
department for
immigration? Why are they
prosecution? Would that have
going
given
on
you
about
some
mask
pause, if the federal
mandates here? I
government
don't
were saying use
understand.
your police departments to fine people $1,500 and give us their records for criminal prosecution?
Yes, it would have.
And so I guess I'm trying to understand, you know, if we set this precedent that we want cities to be enforcing every federal mandate, then what happens when there's a new Democratic president that comes and says, we want a mask mandate that the Republicans may not want? And when there are conservatives like Governor DeSantis or Governor Abbott saying we don't want our cities to enforce that. Do you see, Mayor Wu, any difference between a federal government asking you to enforce laws that ICE is doing versus a federal government asking you to enforce a mask mandate, or frankly, to enforce gun laws that may not be what your local city department is focused on?
It does seem that local authority is part of our democracy and part of our system of government.
Isn't the real issue here not one of immigration, but of federalism? Isn't the question, I mean, everyone agrees that there needs to be, if there's someone who's convicted of a crime, that ICE has the right to enforce those laws. The question is just, are you going to have local governments in this country be beholden to every new president's directives and arm for enforcing that? My view is that we ought to have local governments be able to use their police officers for their priorities. That, in its essence, is federalism, and it actually used to be the conservative Republican position.
Oh, I see what's going on now. What Roe's doing there is he's saying, hey, listen, if the federal government, because of the CDC saying that you have to wear a mask and you didn't enforce that, why should you have to, and you didn't get in any trouble for that? Why should you get in trouble for not enforcing immigration law? Well, the difference is the mask mandates by the CDC were not law. There were no bills voted on by Congress. and signed by the president mandating masks. These were all directives by local mayors and governors. The federal government said, yeah, we want everybody to do this, but they didn't have any laws to back them up on it. It's like the House and the Senate right now are both looking at bills to ensconce into law Doge as it is today. Because we all understand that executive orders, which is how Doge is working today under executive order, can be overturned by the following president, by any other president. Unless you get before the right set of judges who happen to agree with them, like the DACA. When Trump tried to overturn DACA his first term. So, but usually though, you'll find a way, the judge, the following president comes in, signs a new executive order, overturning or ending the previous executive order, and things are done. So there were no laws backing up the CDC mandates. That's why Governor DeSantis and Abbott were able to get away with doing what they did. Because they weren't breaking laws. They just weren't going along with the mandate that the CDC came out with. Because the CDC does not have authority to make law. And that's the point that Ro Canera here is trying to get to. Is saying, but the difference is that the law, there's a difference between a law and a mandate.
North Carolina.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mayor Johnson, in the last 4 years, how much has Chicago spent on care for illegal aliens?
Thank you for that question, Congresswoman. So since 2022, since the governor of Texas began
Just
shipping.
tell me a number. I don't need a speech. Just tell me a number.
So since 2022, since the governor of Texas was shipping individuals to cities across this country, the city's budget, roughly 1% of the city's budget over the course of 4 years.
Mayor Johnston, the same question, and I don't need a speech, just a number.
Thank you, Dr. Congresswoman. Thank you, Congresswoman. It's 79 million over the last 2.5 years.
Mayor Adams, same question. How much has New York spent to care for illegal aliens?
Approximately $6.9 billion went out of our taxpayers' funds.
Mayor Wu, same question. How much has Boston spent to care for illegal aliens in the last 4 years?
We do not ask about immigration status and giving city services and providing that access, so we do not have a number.
What is?
Taxpayers been bearing the.
Finally got that. Did you hear what New York said? $6+ billion. Now the mayor of Chicago there, well, since Abbott started shipping them, what was Abbott? Honestly, what was Abbott supposed to do? He couldn't afford to keep absorbing more illegals. You are a quote unquote welcoming city there in Chicago. Of course, you know how much you've spent, and to say 1% of your city budget. I don't believe that for one damn second. I don't believe that for 1 second. 1% of your budget. It's probably closer to that $1 billion range. And old Woo over there saying that they don't know because they don't ask. They don't, well, we don't know. We just help people. We don't ask about their immigration status. I have a hard time believing that also.
Brunt of the massive wave of illegal aliens who've entered the United States, the Biden administration seemingly declared taxpayers and hardworking Americans collateral damage in the pursuit of open borders. Again, Mayor Johnson, are NGOs providing services to illegal aliens in Chicago?
In accordance with the Welcoming City Ordinance, our sister agencies or city departments, we do not seek the status of any individual that is seeking service.
Mayor Johnston, are NGOs providing services to illegal aliens in Denver?
Thank you, ma'am. When folks arrive on the streets without food or resources or shelter, we do provide food or shelter regardless of where folks arrive from.
Mayor Adams, same question.
Yes, in a combination of city agencies and nonprofits, we responded to the migrant asylum seekers humanitarian crisis that hit our city.
And Mayor Wu, I assume you don't know their status, but do you know if there are NGOs are providing services to people arriving in your city without any kind of documentation?
There are community organizations, many of them in Boston, who seek to serve all of our Boston residents.
Congress must provide oversight and ensure accountability for taxpayer funds going to NGOs. Agents from Customs and Border Protection have been outspoken in opposition to allowing NGOs to assist illegal aliens in subversion of law and order. When asked if NGOs are working at cross purposes to the mission of Border Patrol agents, the chief of the National Border Patrol Council said, quote, "Most definitely, and they should not be allowed, but our government allows it," end quote. NGOs receiving taxpayer funding through grants pay for everything from food, shelter, and transportation to legal services that help the migrants traverse Mexico. That is why I introduced H.R. 245, the Grant Integrity and Border Security Act. This bill would require all NGOs who apply for a federal grant to certify as part of their application that they have not, will not, and are not engaging in acts that violate federal immigration law. If NGOs continue violating our immigration laws, then my bill would ensure that no federal funds can ever go to the violators. It's time.
Oh, now that would be amazing. Again, Doge. Taxpayer dollars going to help feed, clothe, and shelter illegals. Why? Why? I know the courts ruled that we have to educate them if they're in our school systems. But I'm sure if that got before the Supreme Court today, that policy may get overturned. But still, why are we using our tax dollars to feed, clothe, and shelter those who entered our country illegally? It makes no sense to me. It makes not one sense. And if we're giving that money, it's like giving money to Planned Parenthood, because they claim that they do all these other medical needs and assistance to pregnancies, to pregnant women. But when you call the Planned Parenthood in, say, Boston or Albuquerque, and you ask about doing, the prenatal care, well, I'm sorry, we don't do that here. Or breast exams, I'm sorry, we don't do that here. There's lots of audio recordings out there of people doing exactly that, calling various Planned Parenthood sites across the country. Not just in one state, but all across the country. And they don't, so yet Planned Parenthood gets our tax dollars. And yes, I know there are some people out there. There's a lot of people out there. I'm not stupid. I understand there's a lot of people out there that have no problem with tax dollars going out there to pay for the murder of babies, unborn children. Some people understand that the largest number of babies being aborted are babies of minorities. So that's why they don't have a problem with it, because they don't want all these minority babies to be born. In other words, they're racist. And it's sad when people have make the right decision for the wrong reason. I'll never understand how somebody could hate someone based upon the color of their skin or where they come from. I thoroughly dislike China as a country. But just because you're Chinese, that doesn't mean that you're a bad person. And it's like I've said before, I'm being forced to rethink my whole thing, my whole notions about Russia, because I grew up during the Cold War era. Russia was the big bad boy, the big evil boogeyman in the closet. So I'm still looking at that. I'm still being forced to think about that, but that's beside the point.
To pass this bill, ensure accountability, and secure our cities and the border. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
Gentlelady yields back. Chair recognizes Ms. Brown from Ohio.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Today, we've heard my colleagues on the other side of the aisle demean and dehumanize immigrants, choosing fear-mongering and political theater over real solutions. So let's take a moment to set the record straight. The best chance for comprehensive immigration reform came in 2013, when a bipartisan Senate majority passed a bill strengthening border security and providing a path to citizenship for longtime residents. But House Republicans killed it. Fast forward a decade later to last year, the Senate crafted another bipartisan deal, one that would have enhanced border security and tackled the fentanyl crisis with better technology and more agents. But Donald Trump torpedoed it, preferring anti-immigration rhetoric to real solutions. So this
Donald Trump did not torpedo anything, Ms. Brown. Donald Trump wasn't in office. That evil boogeyman could not torpedo anything. What killed that bill, and claim all you want, was all the other crap you had in there. If your bill had been purely what you talked about, that'd been one thing. It would have passed in the House. But that's not what was in there. And once again, both parties do it, but Democrats do it a hell of a lot more. They get that bill that they put up there, and it's like this one here. We're going to strengthen border security. We're going to do this, and we're going to help, put into law some more stuff to help with the fentanyl crisis. That's great. And then, hey, yeah, we can do that. Then also in that bill is going to be, and we are going to fund Planned Parenthood $2 billion, and we are going to do green laws for another $500 million. And it's like, wait a second, that's got absolutely nothing to do with border security. I am so much in favor of single issue bills. That don't have, and like I said, both parties do it, but don't have all these riders attached to it. You make the bill about one thing and one thing only. Oh, yeah, that would definitely make Congress have to take a hell of a lot more votes because they'd have to vote on all these riders that they attach to the bills. But then that also let their constituents know where they stand on these positions. And that way, when you actually have an immigration bill going up there, it's only about immigration. You have a border security bill, it's only about border security. You don't attach border security to a pathway to U.S. citizenship. They're two separate issues. Yeah, I know it's a pain to become a U.S. citizen. I know it's a pain. I've got friends who have done it. And it is a royal pain to do it. But they've done it. And they are now U.S. citizens. And I'm proud of them for going through all the grief and aggravation and expense that it takes to become a U.S. citizen. But it should be hard. It should be difficult to become a U.S. citizen. Because once you're a U.S. citizen, you are granted full 100% protection of our Constitution and all of our rights that no other country has. No other country has. So, Ms. Brown, you once again spread these lies. Spread those lies.
Isn't about fixing the problem, it's about exploiting it. And let's not forget, the president wasn't complaining about this when he was employing undocumented immigrants at his resort. We all remember President Trump's tired old tactics from his first term, the harmful Muslim ban, referring to
The harmful Muslim ban. Yeah, the same Muslim ban, quote unquote Muslim ban that Obama had. The same countries. I think he added two. It wasn't a ban on religion, it was a ban on countries. So, right there again, Ms. Brown, another lie.
Black and brown countries as quote unquote shithole countries. And
Yeah, those are shithole countries where they literally dig holes in the ground to take a shit.
the cruel images of kids in cages. This time around is no different. President Trump signed multiple executive orders before even attempting to work with Congress. Mind you, a Republican-controlled Congress. So this isn't about policy, it's about fear.
There we go, guys. The kids in cages, yeah, those were Obama pictures. They weren't Trump pictures from Trump's. They were pictures from Obama's era. So I've had to correct this woman on 3 specific lies. I don't know about illegals working at Mar-a-Lago. I don't know anything about that. So I don't know how much of that was a lie or not, even though since I've caught her in 3 separate lies all in that one little spiel, I would not be surprised to find out that was a lie. Okay? So
for the last decade, Trump has pushed menacing messages portraying all immigrants as criminals.
Wrong, and yet another lie. He has never portrayed all immigrants as illegals or all illegals or all immigrants as criminals. He's never done that. Once again, you're lying. What is this about Democrats in Congress lying about Trump and getting away? And the sad thing about it is since these are congressional hearings, they can't be corrected. Nobody can stop up there and fact check her to her face at that point. And there's no punishment for lying. Like Adam Schiff, when he lied, flat right lied about the phone call between Trump and whoever he was talking to in Ukraine. Flat right lied about every bit of it. And he suffered no real punishment for it. He should have. He should have been kicked out of the House for it. But there is no punishment for lying like this.
But it isn't just coming from Trump. It's being amplified by right-wing media. A recent Ipsos poll found that people who watch Fox News are twice as likely to believe myths about immigration, including the false idea that immigrants commit more crimes than native-born Americans. This is objectively false, yet 2 in 3 Fox viewers believe it is true.
They commit more crime per capita. And honestly, if you want to look at it seriously, every illegal is committing a crime every day that they're here. They entered the country illegally. They are committing a crime every day that they are in the country. Because they are in the country illegally. So yes, those who have entered our country illegally do commit more crimes than native born. Because they are committing a crime every day that they are in our country.
This serves a purpose: fueling outrage, distracting from real solutions, and keeping the conversation stuck in a cycle of fear instead of facts. And Trump's latest immigration crackdown reinforces these misperceptions. ICE raids, choreographed for cameras, deportation sweeps with photo ops, wardrobe changes, and tough talk. The cruel performative videos of immigrants in shackles, $200 million in taxpayer money to air pro-Trump propaganda ads. Talk about waste, fraud, and abuse. All spectacle, no substance, all performance, no plan. On the campaign trail, J.D. Vance and Donald Trump promoted vile and xenophobic lies about Haitian immigrants in my state of Ohio. And now the Trump administration has moved to strip protections from 500,000 Haitians. These are people who have lived, worked, and contributed to this country for years. And they came here the right way, the legal way. But instead of recognizing their contributions, we are forcing them back to a country plagued by violence, instability, and humanitarian crisis. All so Trump can claim.
These are, yeah, they came here. Oh, they did come here legally. And Haitian is no longer what it was when they came here. But you can't compare what Haiti, the life of the average citizen in Haiti to the life of the average U.S. citizen. There is no comparison. I agree. But TDS only lasts so long. It's temporary. That's the T, temporary. You can't make temporary into permanent no matter how hard you want to. And remember, the Democrats fight hard against having non-citizens and illegals not being counted as far as representation goes. They fight hard against that because they would lose so much power in the House and Senate, well, in the House and in the Electoral College. Yes, that they do have an alternative meeting here, meaning. Because the Electoral College is based upon how many people there are in the House and Senate. And your House representation is based upon population, as counted by the census. And if the census only counted the only numbers that counted in the census would be those who were U.S. citizens and not the millions of illegals and non-citizens living in the country. The individual states like California would lose seats in the House of Representatives. And if you lose seats in the House of Representatives, that also means you lose power in the Electoral College, which is used to elect the president. California would go from 54 to say 45 or 49 electoral votes. That's a big drop. California seriously would be hurt the worst if we only counted U.S. citizens, because they would lose a lot of seats in the House of Representatives.
500,000 more deportations. The cruelty isn't just the point, it's their pleasure. So let's be honest about what's really going on here. Mayor Johnson of Chicago, what sort of an impact will the Trump administration's decision to allow arrests at sensitive locations like hospitals, preschools, churches, and courts have on your city?
Thank you for that question. As a welcoming city space, it's important that the trust between the community and law enforcement is strong. That's ultimately how we have built a safer city. Just this year alone, violent crime is down 20%. Any type of threat to the civility and to the humanity of people is a threat to the evolution of our democracy. And so it's incumbent upon Washington to ensure that we are funding our education system, that we are funding our transportation system, our healthcare system, creating more jobs. Just since I've been in office, we've increased youth employment, summer jobs by over 40%. Making sure that our young people see their purpose is the value of this democracy. And so I call on this body to continue to invest in the city of Chicago that sends billions of dollars to Washington.
Thank you. Fear and cruelty are not.
And none of that has anything to do with arresting illegals wherever they may be. Arresting them and deporting them, especially the 1.4 million illegals who have already been ordered to leave the country and have not. A lot of words being spoke there, and not a single one of them had anything to do with removing illegals.
The solution. It's distinctly un-American and a dangerous distraction from the Congress's responsibility to actually deliver progress on this challenging facing our country. And with that, I yield back.
Gentlelady yields back. Chair recognizes Mr. Groffman from Wisconsin.
Yeah, just a couple comments first. As far as the idea of who's committing crimes, we have no idea how many illegal immigrants in this country are committing crimes because nobody keeps track. Okay, if I go to a prison or a jail in Wisconsin with, I don't know, 1,500 inmates, and I ask how many of these people are here illegally or how many are citizens of another country, nobody will know the answer to that question. So that's why we don't have hard facts on how many crimes people committed. The other thing I like to point out is every year in this country, about 850,000 new people from other countries are sworn in as American citizens. I don't know of Donald Trump ever talking about reducing that number. Maybe he should reduce that number, but I've never heard him talk about reducing that number. Our concern here was illegal immigration, and I would hope the vast majority of Americans think we ought to have a immigration law, that the 850,000 new citizens every year go through. But if we're going to have an immigration law, it means we have to do something with the people who try to become permanent residents without going through the proper structure. And I think part of our problem here is we have a lot of people who don't understand why we have an immigration law at all. And I want to ask all four of you as I go down, we go down the row here, do you believe the United States should have an immigration law, or do you believe that just anybody should be able to show up and come in? And we'll start with Mayor Adams there.
I strongly believe we need to have an immigration law. I strongly believe we need to secure our borders. We witnessed a 90% decrease, and we're seeing that play out in our city. So we should have a strong immigration law.
And I'll ask this question then. If you believe we should have an immigration law, and then we'll get all four of you here. If you believe that, do you believe people who ignore the law, whatever that law is, should be allowed in the country?
I think that all of us must be held accountable to the law, and if we secure our borders to make sure before they come in that is done correctly, it is not going to impact cities to carry that burden. Like I said, close to $7 billion in tax dollars.
Mr. Johnson, do you believe we ought to have an immigration law in this country, or do you believe everybody should just be able to walk in here and set up shop?
Thank you, sir. I do believe we should have an immigration law. I do believe we should have secure borders. I do believe we should fix our asylum process. I do believe we should let dreamers get access to permanent citizenship. I
Okay,
think
then the
there's lots
question
more to
is,
do.
if somebody ignores that law and comes in this country, do you believe the whoever, ICE or Border Patrol or anybody, should spin them around and send them out? Or can they just ignore the law and because they, however, cross the Rio Grande, overstating a visa, whatever, are here? Do you believe that we ought to do something to the people who are ignoring the law?
Thank you, sir. In the case of the folks we're seeing, they are coming here because they are claiming asylum. When they claim asylum, they then have a right to a day in court to see if that asylum
Right.
claim
And
is
the
valid.
question is, though, if I come in this country and stay here and I have not gone through any formal process to become a citizen or to be a visa, legal visa or whatever, should we kick that person out?
The folks that we're serving, sir, are trying very hard to navigate that legal process. It's often a 7-year wait for a court date when they arrive.
If you want to claim refugee status or asylum status, you do that legally. You follow the law in entering our country. All right. We have got, and if you're escaping, let's say you're escaping Venezuela, you have to pass through at least 5, I believe it's 5 different countries to get to the U.S. border. Okay? That means you've passed at least 5 different U.S. embassies at which you could stop and request, your refugee status. You don't have to come across the border to request refugee status. You don't have to. So, enter the country legally. It's that simple.
This country, so part of it is the backlogged administrative
tell you
needs of the
this.
border.
Every month under President Biden, at least the statistics I have, 30 to 40,000 people, what are called gotaways, came across the southern border, didn't ask for asylum, didn't ask for anything. Do you believe that people who just come across that way should be escorted out of the country? Or do you believe just because they ran between the designated checkpoints that they, as the result, get to stay here forever?
Again, so we're serving folks who are seeking asylum or have status,
Well, of course,
temporary protected
you
status,
wouldn't even know
or
that.
CBP-1.
Okay, next, Mayor Johnson.
Again, refuse to answer the question.
What do you think? Should we have an immigration law in this country, or should anybody who comes here just be able to stay here?
I do support the bipartisan legislation that was passed out of the Senate for comprehensive immigration
Well, no,
reform.
that's not answering the question. Right now, people are breaking the law. Do you believe the United States should have an immigration law? As far as I know, every country in the world has an immigration law. Maybe there's one outlier or something. And we have laws in the United States. Do you believe if people come here and break the law that they should be escorted out, or do you believe they just get to stay here forever?
Our immigration system is broken. We have not had comprehensive immigration reform since 1986.
Answer the
May I
question.
answer fully?
Yeah, his time's expired, but feel free to answer. Did you want Mayor Wu to answer your question, or are you finished? Okay, yeah, go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Congressman. Yes, I do believe we need, cities everywhere clearly need an immigration law that has secure borders, comprehensive and consistent, compassionate pathways to residency and citizenship, resources to adjudicate the complexities of the law. And at the same time, I do not support mass deportation. That would be devastating for our economy. And there are millions of people who are running our small businesses, going to our schools.
Okay. Thank you. Chair recognizes, and I must add, I don't think anyone's calling for mass deportation, but Chair recognizes Mr.
Oh,
Garcia.
I'm calling for mass deportations.
Thank you.
I want every legal in the country rounded up and deported.
Chairman, I want to thank all of our witnesses for being here today. Before I came to Congress, I was the mayor of Long Beach, California for 8 years. It's a diverse city of about 500,000 people. So I appreciate the work that mayors do. As mayor, I signed the Long Beach Values Act to protect all of our residents, including immigrants and undocumented residents. We set up justice funds to support people that were facing deportation, defending immigrants in court. These are policies that are strongly supported by my residents back home because they are good for all the community and make Long Beach safer. Now, we also know that immigrants make our communities vibrant and thriving places to live. The facts are that sanctuary jurisdictions or jurisdictions that welcome immigrants are overwhelmingly safer than non-sanctuary jurisdictions. That's actually a fact. Immigrants, both documented and undocumented, are also less likely to be incarcerated or to commit crimes than native-born people. We know this to be true. Again, these are facts, and mayors have every right to pursue the policies that you know are best for your residents. Now, the Trump administration has threatened to prosecute some of the mayors on the panel today and force them to comply with his extremist agenda. But however, Mayor Adams, you are in a different position. You, of course, are already facing serious criminal charges. And Mayor Adams, I assume that you are not going to commit perjury today. And I do believe, though, that you have an enormous amount of issues facing you ahead of you. And it means your criminal charges are absolutely relevant to us today. Bribery, wire fraud, willfully and knowingly conspiring to commit offenses against the United States. Mayor Adams, you, of course, deny these corruption charges against you. Is that correct?
Yes.
I'm not getting into that. All right. And I think that's pretty much the end of it here. Guys, these mayors sitting there doing their, as you see, Neil, that Ash Wednesday. I'm sorry, that was Ash Wednesday. Catholics put a mark of ash on their forehead. For some reason, my chat on my phone wasn't keeping up. Isn't keeping up with the chat on the going. Let me see if I get my chat back where it's supposed to be, but it's not. I'm sorry, guys. But yeah, last Wednesday was Ash Wednesday. Okay. We do have an immigration problem in this country. And again, these are my opinions. And if you agree with them, fine. If you don't agree with them, fine. We can always discuss it. As I've said before, I would have no problem with having the United States federal government possessing a 100-yard stretch of property along both borders. If there was, all right, 100 yards, plain and simple. And yeah, I know on the northern border, you've got that border running right through buildings. There's, in some towns, some small towns, that border runs right through buildings. But particularly on the southern border, where most of the illegal crossings happen, let's, 100-yard stretch, walls on both sides with the not landmined. Okay, I don't want landmines put in, but a patrol area in between the two fences that you see people crossing that area that aren't, they've crossed the wall illegally. And anybody caught in between the two fences, between the two walls, they're just automatically returned to the other side, to the southern border. No questions asked. You crossed the border illegally, you got caught crossing the border illegally, you go back across the border. It's like when you were a child and you were reaching for something that you weren't allowed to have. You were reaching for that cookie, you were reaching for that candy bar mom and dad had set out, and you weren't allowed to have it. And mom and dad reached over and swatted your hand. And you drew your hand back. let's, send the illegals back across the border. Mom and dad didn't sit there and hold a trial about your hand reaching for them cookies. They swatted your hand and your hand went back inside your pocket or behind your back. Well, we need to send the illegals back across the border. And they say, well, no one's calling for mass deportations. Yes, I am calling for mass deportation. And I don't care, age 9 days to 99 years old. If you're in this country illegally, deported. No hearings. You're deported. Well, I came from Venezuela. Too bad. Did you stop at any of the embassies? Did you come across the border legally? Well, no. Then you broke our laws. Get the hell out. I would ask every one of those mayors, how many illegals do they allow? How do they allow people to just walk in their homes and set up on their kitchen table or set up at their couch or take over a bedroom and help themselves to anything they can find in their pantry? I would bet absolutely none of them would allow that to happen in their homes. So why in the hell do they allow it to happen in the country? Well, we have to be compassionate. How compassionate are you with what goes on inside your house? You got no problems being compassionate with other people's money, with other people's jobs. You got no problem being compassionate with that. But how about your own money, your own job? That's where I say we got to worry about the so-called compassionate people. Democrats on the whole are very compassionate with other people's jobs, very compassionate with other people's money. There's that it's been done time and time and time again. You can find at least a dozen different of these interviews where they go to college and get them talking about, well, should we be taking more money away from the wealthy, from the top earners to give to the low earners? And they, oh, yes, yes, yes. Okay, great. Well, let's do that with your grades. What do you mean? Well, let's take away, if you're scoring real high, let's take some of your grade points away from you and give it to the students who are scoring real low to help them so they can pass. Well, no, I worked hard for my grades. I'm not giving up part of my grades to somebody else. Well, I worked real hard for my money. Why should I be giving up my money to help somebody who came into the country illegally? I am for tighter border controls. I am for tighter immigration. What was that he's saying? Almost 1 million people a year, 800,000 people a year become U.S. citizens, or was it 80,000? Become naturalized citizens? More power to them. But our immigration should be people who come here that can stand on their own 2 feet, earn a job. They've got skills that they can get a job. to support themselves and their family, that they, with the understanding that they can never go on welfare. You can't go on welfare if you immigrate into our country. You have to support yourself. Most countries, if you want to move to their country and live there permanently, you've got to have a certain amount of money in your bank account to support you. You watch the Border Defense show on, a lot of them are on YouTube, and especially Australia. And how much money do you have? Pull up your bank account on your cell phone. Oh, you bank account. Oh, you've only got $1,000 in your bank account, but you want to be here for 3 months. How do you plan on supporting yourself for 3 months on $1,000? You can't support yourself a week on $1,000. You can't get a hotel room for a week and food for a week if all you have is $1,000. So they refuse people entry. They don't have enough money to support themselves. So why shouldn't the United States be doing the same thing? Ensuring that anybody wanting to move to our country, come to our country, has got the financial wherewithal to do it. Mexico forces that. The UK does that. European countries require that. I know Japan does. I don't know about India. I don't know about that region of the country, what they require. But I know Japan, you have to be able to support yourself. So why shouldn't the U.S. have that same requirements? Makes no sense to me, people. Anyway, I will not be streaming tomorrow. I've got a 7:30 doctor's appointment. So I will not be streaming tomorrow morning. Other than that, I want to tell everybody to have a good day. Thanks for coming out. And I guess I'll be back on Thursday. So y'all be good. Enjoy yourselves. Be with the ones you love and love the ones that you're with. Bye-bye.